episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Restoration Brokers of America. Did you know that 80% of businesses are unsellable? Let RBA work with you to ensure you maximize the value of your business when you decide it's time for a change. You've worked hard to build it, let RBA work hard to sell it. Visit sellmyrestorationbusiness.com for more information. Hello there. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Today podcast. It started offline with joke telling, so there's going to be some jokes in here for you. And two handsome gentlemen joining me from just one state south of me in Ohio. It is Rocky and Kameron. They are both from One Tom-Plumber, which is an explosive and crazy growing franchise. If you have not heard of One Tom-Plumber yet, you will soon. I have no doubt. They are signing new franchisees constantly. I had the opportunity to meet them through some of the events that Viola Management Associates puts on, and I get to see their smiling faces once in a while. So I'm excited to have them here today, kind of share a little bit about their background, share about One Tom-Plumber, and also talk about kind of the growth of franchises and how that's growing in popularity for restorers to add on to their companies, a way for you to increase your revenue sources, those kind of things. Plumbing makes sense, obviously. So we're going to talk about all those things. Rocky, Kameron, thank you very much for being here. So Rocky, I'm going to start with you. Have you kind of introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background in the industry?
Well, I started a restoration company in 2004 after I sold a multi-state regional business to Berkshire Hathaway, and just been in it. Love the restoration piece, the chaos of it all. It just kind of worked for my personality, and built and sold about 8 businesses along the way, and the restoration business was never one of those, because that's what I love. That's what it's all about, and I love the people and the industry, and it just grew on me, and I felt like I was always part of the restoration industry, and I'm a huge advocate of the industry.
Okay, Kameron, what about you? Share a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I'm Rocky's son. So I grew up in the restoration business, worked through it for a few years, and then I started our original One Tom-Plumber location here in Cincinnati. Grew it to about 2.3 million in about a year and a half, and then started another location as well, and now I run the franchise headquarters.
So what was the inspiration to start One Tom-Plumber? Like, Rocky, I know you're part of Icon. Were you seeing an opportunity in Icon where you're like, we could use, everybody wants plumbing referrals, right? So where did this idea come from?
It's a great question. I originally built the business on plumber referrals. That's what we did. That's who we are. Loved it. And I did a lot of the sales because I just got along with those guys. Everything from hunting and boating, it just seemed to work. And then one of my biggest customers, Roto-Rooter, which is actually based here in Cincinnati, and some of the other plumbers that were sending me business got into the restoration business, because I guess they figured out if I can pay them $300 to $500 a lead, there must be something to this. So I was like, well, if you guys can do it to me, it's my chance to pay it back. And I loved the referrals. I love the water damage. I wanted to stay in as much as possible, get rid of the TPAs and the large loss rebuilds. And I was like, the heck with it. I'm going to do it myself. So I went out and bought the 1-866 plumber phone number brand and the franchise, and rebranded it. And Kameron and I were talking about going national, because actually Chuck DeWald is actually the one that talked me into doing it, because it was working so well for us. Yeah, he basically threatened to hit me with his baseball bat if I didn't franchise it and help other people in our industry. And so that's what we started doing. And the next thing you know, it's One Tom-Plumber, the plumber whose name is his number. And then we shortened it, because that was a little long to put on a band, to One Tom-Plumber, the name is the phone number. So, and then I didn't want another job, so Cameron just finished college, and he had some money and wanted to invest, and next thing you know, he's running the day-to-day of it, and I'm mentoring, and I'm doing what I love, and that's selling, talking to franchises. And we decided to only sell to restoration companies, because the whole point of this was to bring in water damage and let them compete head-to-head with the Roto-Rooters of the world.
Yep.
And that's the business model we brought to the table. So we don't sell to anybody but restoration companies.
So Kameron, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Again, that's my heart and soul is in the restoration industry, and I love it. And you can see that I'm dual branded. I wear my restoration company just as proudly as I do the one Tom-Plumber brand.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Kameron, has it grown faster than you expected? I mean, you came on out of college and you're like, hey, this could be a good, fun little business. You're both laughing. So I guess we know the answer to that without the answer, but go ahead. Has it been faster than you expected?
Definitely. So the goal was to do $1 million in business our second year, which I mean we
Blew out
over
of
doubled
water.
that.
Yeah.
And then our first year in franchising, we wanted to sell 3 franchises our first year and 5 our second. We ended up selling 9 our first year and 11 our second. And actually in the middle of our second year, we took 6 months where we just said, we canceled all our trade shows. Just because it was growing way faster than we thought.
We had to scale.
Yeah, it seems, the concept really makes sense to a lot of people. And what we weren't expecting was the amount of word of mouth that we would get.
Yes, for sure. So are you in year 3? You started kind of during the pandemic, didn't you? Or are you further along than that?
We talked about it. We had actually started April. It'll be 2 years this coming April. So the first year was a partial year, and this year will be our first full calendar year, sort of. We stopped selling April 1st until sometime in June, July. We weren't even talking to people. We were just collecting names, and because we really needed to scale, we didn't weren't really prepared for the explosive growth, for lack of a better word, that we had, and how much interest, like Cameron said, was coming in from places that we didn't expect. We thought we were going to have to go to the market and grind it out and get, put the word out. And thankfully, people like you guys and Chuck DeWald and some behemoths in the industry started telling people, and we were just getting call after call after call. And we have a pretty good vetting process. So we're very particular about who we onboard, because you do get the whole city. And for the most part, other than big cities. So we're careful on who we onboard. So we're really particular about, because we want to be a national brand, not only on the one Tom-Plumber side, but on the restoration side, in the sense that we're going after these national property management contracts, et cetera. That's where that's what we wanted to. Yeah, because it's all about helping the restoration company bring in basically commercial water damage and residential water damage.
Okay, so talk to that a little bit more. That's where I was actually going to go with my next question. It seems simple in concept, but explain why this is such a good complement to an existing restoration company. How does this work?
Yeah. So I think the simplest way to explain it, and a concept everyone knows, is we're a bolt-on franchise. So the extremely famous example is Love's Truck Stop. So if you've ever been to a Love Truck Stop, odds are there's a McDonald's attached to it. They do have some other fast food restaurants, but more than likely it's a McDonald's. So people get off the exit because they see the golden arches and they're hungry. While they're getting McDonald's, they're going to get gas.
Yep.
But it goes the other way. People get off because they see the Love's Truck Stop. While they're getting gas, they're going to get McDonald's as well. So what we've realized is that almost all water damages come from some sort of emergency plumbing issue. You get the occasional roof or foundation leak, or it comes in through a window, but for the most part, especially on the commercial side, almost all of them come through an emergency plumbing issue. But more than that, what we realized, and Rocky was trying to run a sales team, and they'd have to build these relationships for a year or two on not knowing when the next water damage would occur. So with plumbing, these big commercial buildings will have plumbing issues sometimes every day, but at least a couple times a week. So we're constantly in front of them doing work. And on top of that, the plumber gets the first call typically. So we're not only in front of them, but they'll give us a call first, even if they're not planning on using us for the water damage. That gives us a really good chance to intercept that call, and it's been extremely successful.
I want to add to that. Actually, I wanted to go to war with the Roto-Rooters of the world, but what I didn't realize was how much it helps us against the behemoths like Belfour, because we get those calls before they go to the restoration. We capture the call, we get it, and we're dispatched before it can go to these national contracts and these other things as far as the restoration piece. But I want to go into this too, and I don't want to. The plumbing side, from a percentage standpoint, is actually even more profitable than the restoration piece, and I just didn't see that coming. I knew it was going to be good, but I had no idea that it was going to be so good as far as a profitability standpoint. So there's some really good benefits that came from this that we just didn't plan for. I'd like to tell you, I was, saw that coming, and that was going to help me beat the Belfours out for the commercial business. It does, but I didn't see it coming.
So what do you tell the potential franchisees who are like, this sounds like a great idea, but I'm having a hard time hiring people right now. Now you're telling me I need to probably go try to find and hire plumbers too. How do I get over that hurdle?
It's actually one of the easiest things you'll do, because the way we pay and the system we've put in place, we've eliminated the hourly system for the plumbers. It's something that I really wouldn't want to get into because it's a little bit of the secret sauce, but
sure.
We ran an ad and had 92 people apply about 2 months ago.
And mostly qualified people, like they were like, these are the
no, absolutely not. No, there's some sifting and sifting and moving through and stuff like that. But finding the people, it's fairly easy in that industry.
And then really the big thing that I think is probably our strongest point as a franchise is just how we set things up, how we simplify things, and training. So in Cincinnati, the only experienced people I've hired is a plumber, an excavator, and a drain cleaner, and everyone else has been trained in-house.
Okay.
A lot of people don't realize your typical plumber does offer those 3 trades.
Yeah, and people are going to be like, say what? One of the things to keep in mind, the kind of work that we do is very simple, from everything from water heaters to fixing busted pipes, resetting toilets, putting in new sump pumps. You're really hiring a personality that you're training, and we can get someone in a truck usually within 60 days.
So do you go ahead.
No, and we bring them in for the first week and train them here.
That was my question. Yes. Do you do any of the training? That was my next question. All right. So how many franchises are you up to right now? We're recording this just before Christmas of 2022. So where are you at right now?
We're at 29 signed, 16 open, and we've got 3 more that we should close the year out. So we would probably end up at 32 this year, give or take 1.
That's amazing. All right. And so where do you see yourselves going in 2023? Like, what are some of your goals and stuff for 2023?
So what we're thinking is that we need to build up some infrastructure. So we're going to stop selling for a while, but we're thinking we'll probably end the year around 50.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
and I think it's important to know that we do it a little different. We build the infrastructure, and then we go get the customers. We go get the franchises. We don't sell the franchises and then build the infrastructure to them. We put the people in place, and then we'll sell more franchises. I've been on the other side of that. I've owned franchises, including 1-800 Packouts. I own 3 of those. And one of my biggest frustrations, Bart, I love you to death, but one of my biggest frustrations is he would sell franchises and build the infrastructure to how many franchises he sold. I always ran every business the other way. So that's when Cameron says we're selling, it's because we're building infrastructure, and then we're going to bring people in that we can handle.
So how many women do you have within your organization? I think you also have some women franchisees. Is that right?
Yeah, I feel like we're getting overwhelmed by women. So not
what a terrible problem.
I know. Yeah, it's awesome, actually.
Not including us 2.
3. We have 3 women-owned franchises, and women-owned franchises.
And then on the headquarters side, we're over half women.
That's awesome. Good for you. I love hearing stuff like that. That's awesome. So what do you think the draw is for, like, especially those women franchisees? What has drawn them to One Tom Plumber?
System. It's all systemized. It's easy, literally from start to finish. And I'll let Cameron kind of expand on that because he's the one that built the system. And one thing too, he actually moved from Cincinnati and started and ran Columbus just to make sure that it was replicable before we went live out onto the marketplace.
Okay.
So
yeah, so I think I'm really anyone that is extremely detail oriented can do a great job running not only our franchise but any franchise. And it just seems like a lot of women have that personality type. But yeah, the biggest thing we get is pushback is people say, well, I'm not a plumber, so I can't buy a plumbing franchise. And I always tell them, I'm like, well, do you have to be a chef to buy a Wendy's franchise? That's the whole purpose of the system. So we've broken everything down into checklists and just made it extremely easy. And actually the franchisee or the person who buys the franchise doesn't actually run it. Some people will run it at first, or there'll be a husband and wife team and the wife will run it. But most of the people will buy a franchise and then have a general manager, which they manage through a checklist, and that general manager will run the franchise on a day-to-day.
Yep, we show them how to manage the general manager so that they don't have to run it, because we say this all the time. We want you to focus on your bread and butter, your golden goose, and that's the restoration company. So we handle that from literally start to finish.
So this might be a naive question. Sorry. This might be a little bit of a naive question on my part, and hopefully it's not a sticky question, but can you tack a One Tom-Plumber franchise onto like a Rainbow, or is that not allowed? Does it have to be an independent that's buying a One Tom-Plumber? I know Rainbow is just one example, but there's so many franchises.
Great question. We actually have some franchises.
And probably about half our franchisees have a restoration franchise.
Okay.
So most of the franchise agreements for the restoration franchise prevent them from starting another restoration franchise.
Okay.
But anything outside of the restoration business is allowed.
Yeah, we have several R1s, restoration ones. We have Puro Cleaning. I'm not sure all the rest of them, but there's 3 or 4 brands that are attached to the One Tom-Plumber business model. Okay. So the two really go hand in hand.
Okay. All right. So we talked about women a little bit. Let's go back and talk about your branding. I know, Rocky, you and I had a big conversation about branding, gosh, a year ago or whatever. I think when we first met, I was really interested in your branding and where it came from and all of that. So talk about the pink and the black and the white and kind of where the branding itself came from.
It's a great question. The branding, luckily here in Cincinnati, we've got Procter & Gamble and some other big branding companies that are all about the brand. And so we were able to work with some top-notch people that did some research and found out that 83% of all plumbing calls come from women. Mm-hmm. So from that point forward, everything that we did, we wanted to capture as much of the 83% as we possibly could. And that's where we went with the pink, the look, the brand, the polka dots on the front of the vehicles, everything top to bottom, and literally brought my wife in to work with them hand in hand because she was completely a demographic and had done some branding in her future life.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add on to that as well. So we did a lot of surveys and looked at a lot of data. And if you look at almost every plumbing truck, there's a really masculine figure on it, whether it's a cowboy or a big, strong plumber. And typically men think about a wrench. That's the #1 plumbing tool they think about. But women think about a plunger.
Yeah.
And then we also looked at some surveys, and we found out, and this was a surprise to me, but women's #1 concern on a daily basis is personal safety. I would never really think about that. I don't worry about my safety when I'm walking to my car, and no one really wants to attack me. But that is something that women have to think about. So what we decided is we need the brand to be as disarming as possible, from the way we answer to the phones to how the truck look when it pulls in, and all the way to how the guy is when he knocks on the door.
Yep, to the fact that he's handing him a pink plunger.
A pink plunger. I have one of those. If you ever see One Tom-Plumber at trade shows, they have lots of pink plungers. You can get a pink plunger. I highly recommend. Okay, so what would you recommend to restoration owners who are thinking, or have maybe already thought about adding a franchise to their existing company. If there are, like you mentioned Packhouse, there's a lot of different franchises that people could add on to an existing restoration company. What do you recommend as far as the vetting process? Like, what should restorers be looking for in a potential franchisor to partner with?
I think the biggest thing is support. So there's a lot, as you mentioned, there are a lot of bolt-on franchisees or franchisors, but what we do and what I think that the potential franchisees should look for is not only a really good initial training, holding their hand and walk, or not even holding their hand, but when they hire a GM, holding that general manager's hand, and at the end of that startup phase, they have a business that's completely ready to go without the owner really having to invest any time. That's going to be the GM. A full training of the staff, a franchisor that performs regular audits, so looks through their numbers, listens to their calls, and then is able to let the owner know where the ball's being dropped so they can quickly get that fixed. And then with a really good retraining program, and because it's inevitable that people are going to need additional training.
Yep. And what if I was a restoration guy, and I am, what really would sell me is the fact that I just wanted to get not so dependent on the TPAs. In fact, I moved away completely from the TPAs, and I wanted to get away from the large loss rebuild and started doing the stuff that's more profitable, like water. And I wanted to get into the commercial space. And so, at that time we were maybe 10% commercial. Right now we're 80% commercial, 20% residential. And we are about 80%, I think it's 82% water, mitigation, as opposed to the rebuild and everything else. And so a lot of our guys are that exact formula, where they're trying to transition into profitable, less headaches. And we're a vehicle and a tool to do that.
The TPA aspect is huge. We just released our state of the industry last week, and that was probably one of the most surprising data points that came out of our study, was how much we knew that the industry kind of struggled with TPAs, right? But how much the industry wants to really move away from that, or have it be like 10% of their business or less. So that's definitely an interesting part to it as well. All right. Yeah. Anything else serious we should talk about before I make you both start telling jokes?
No, well, the jokes are good. One of the things is, keep in mind, I think it's important to know that I've honestly been on one plumbing job, since we've started this whole process. So from a restoration owner standpoint, and a future, hopefully, one Tom-Plumber owner standpoint, you don't need to know plumbing. You just need to know business. And if you can get the right people in place that will follow the checklist, learn the system, it's really that simple and that easy. And that's one of the things that we wanted to do when we were building this, and not pull people away from the restoration company, but give them another revenue stream, and get them into the commercial space without a lot of headache and heartache on their part. It does cost some money, and anytime you start a business, it's finding the right people. You're going to hire the wrong person along the way, but at the same time, the end result is more money, more water damage, and you don't not dependent on the TPAs and the large loss rebuilds. That's us. If that's not what you're looking for, and we tell people this all the time, that's not who we are. That we're going to bring that to the table. Not everybody wants that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, Cameron, anything else you want to add? I might make you tell the first joke.
All right, I'll start off with the first joke.
Okay.
So I'll start with my non-funny jokes, because I only know 4 plumbing jokes. So I'll start with the worst one, and then I'll gradually move to the best one.
I like it.
So what do you call it when a plumber sleeps over at your house? A slumber potty.
That was the first joke you told me, and I think it was the exact eye roll the first time around.
I told you that it's not funny.
Go ahead.
Yes. This is the order I asked for them in, and people will appreciate good or bad jokes. I appreciate good or bad jokes. Okay, next.
What's a room full of cynical plumbers called? A skeptic tank.
Sorry, that's so stupid. It's funny.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. Okay.
All right, this one's pretty good. It's pretty good. What's a plumber's favorite type of shoe? Clogs.
And I don't know any plumbing jokes. I know a few dad jokes that I'll throw out there real quick. Okay. But What did the shark say when he ate the clownfish? Man, that tasted funny.
Such a dad joke. That's such a dad joke.
I got two more. I got what happened to the plumber when he backed into the meat saw?
The butcher.
Oh, the butcher. What happened to the butcher when he backed into the meat saw? He got a little behind in his work.
That's so gross. You just can't with that one.
All right, and the last one, and this is a good one, but it's not that funny. The kids love it though. Is why did the turtle cross the road to get to the Shell station?
Go ahead, Cameron. Follow it up.
Yeah, why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road? It got stuck in a crack.
That's much better than the Shell station joke.
Yeah. Dad and plumbing jokes from one Tom Plumber, the plumber whose name is his number.
Maybe that's what you guys should do next for marketing. You should start your own little Cameron and Rocky's picture show. I don't know. Comic show. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for telling your story. I look forward to seeing you, I'm sure, plenty in 2023. Congrats on all of your success. I love seeing all of your parties that you're doing as new franchisees are signing. Follow them on Facebook. You can go to onetomplumber.com. It's the number one, tomplumber.com to find out more. Thank you, gentlemen. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
For more restoration today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com. and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.